Hello everyone, this is 8E-3T, better known as Beat, coming back to you as your favorite autistic VTuber to talk to you about a new deck list. Now, this time we're talking about one of my favorite decks of all time, even though it is never good. But anyways, today we're talking about Flower Cardians, my favorite archetype of probably all time. Now, the best part about Flower Cardians is that every single thing they do is just draw into more cards. However, that means that they're lacking in a lot of other effects. While they have some decent spell and trap removal, some decent monster destruction, the issue is that all of that is reliant on you actually drawing into those cards and continuing to draw into more Flower Cardian monsters rather than any spell traps. Because if you draw into a spell trap, you're not getting any benefits, and you're just going to discard that spell trap. But let's get into the list of how many of each monster that we have. So starting out, we have 3 copies of Flower Cardian Pine, 1 copy of Flower Cardian Pine with Crane, 3 copies of Flower Cardian Cherry Blossom with Curtain, 3 copies of Flower Cardian Cherry Blossom, 3 copies of Flower Cardian Peony with Butterfly, 2 copies of Flower Cardian Clover with Boar, 3 copies of Flower Cardian Zebra Grass, 2 copies of Flower Cardian Maple with Deer, 3 copies of Flower Cardian Willow, 2 copies of Flower Cardian Willow with Calligrapher, and 3 copies of Flower Cardian Paulownia. Now, it's important that most of your deck is made up of monsters because, as I mentioned previously, you're not going to get benefits from drawing into spell traps unless they are drawn as your card for turn. That means that you want to fill this deck up with as many Flower Cardian monsters, but that makes this very fun because you have a bunch of cards that do nothing but draw you more cards, and then you'll get effects like Flower Cardian Clover with Boar, where you can draw from the top of your deck, reveal it, and then if it's a Flower Cardian monster, destroy a monster. Or its counterpart, Flower Cardian Maple with Deer, where you do the same thing, but if it's a Flower Cardian monster, you destroy a spell trap. Then you have stuff with Flower Cardian Cherry Blossom with Curtain, which is all about I'm going to draw, and then if it's a Flower Cardian, I special summon this card, otherwise I discard them both. This is a very much all or nothing card, but it's so good. It's not once per turn, which means you can use it as many times as you want. We also have cards like Flower Cardian Pine, which is great for your normal summon because most of these aren't going to be normal summoned, but this is a perfect target for it because its effect only goes off on normal summon. It's important to note that a lot of these are very, very level dependent. It's very important to keep these levels in mind when you're trying to special summon things, and anything that doesn't require a specific level or lower is going to require that you tribute something. So that's why you need a lot of cards like Cherry Blossom with Curtain that can special summon themselves out very easily without the requirement of levels or such, or Pine. But that also means when it comes to your tuners, you're very limited. The only tuners I run in here are Willow with Calligrapher and Peony with Butterfly, because I think they might actually be the only tuners in this entire archetype outside of the extra deck. Moving on to the spell traps. We only have spells. Traps will not help you here. As much as you may think, I want as many common staples and trap staples as possible, they're not going to help you. You want Flower Cardian based spells and like 1 or 2 other support, but really it's pretty much only Flower Cardian based spells. So for my spells, I have 1 copy of Reinforcement of the Army, 2 copies of Flower Gathering, 2 copies of Flower Stacking, 2 copies of Super Koi Koi, 3 copies of Recardination, and 2 copies of Super All In. Now, like I said, when you draw into a spell trap instead of a Flower Cardian monster, it will always get discarded immediately. And that's important to keep in mind because that tells you how you want to stack your deck. That's why I barely run any spells, even though a lot of them are fully oriented around Flower Cardians. Only a few of these, if they are discarded, actually get you a benefit in the graveyard. Recardination and Super All In. A few of them can still do things in the graveyard, but not when they're discarded. And of course, we only run 1 copy of Reinforcement of the Army because it's limited, but also because keeping it at 1 copy even before it was limited means that you're not going to run into it much, and you're more likely to draw it when you're not, using your monster effects and then discarding it. But it's just good to help with consistency every now and then. Moving on to the extra deck. This is kind of just go ham with the synchro monsters. You want to keep it mostly to Flower Cardians because a lot of these Flower Cardian monsters lock you into Flower Cardians, but you can still get away with a lot of stuff in a way that I will explain later. So for me, I run 1 copy of Stardust Charge Warrior, 2 copies of Flower Cardian Boardfly, 2 copies of Flower Cardian Moonflower Viewing, 1 copy of Blood Mephist, 2 copies of Flower Cardian Light Shower, 1 copy of Stardust Warrior, 2 copies of Flower Cardian Light Flare, 1 copy of Blackwinged Assault Dragon, 1 copy of Nightmare Cerberus, 1 copy of Nightmare Phoenix, and 1 copy of Underworld Goddess of the Closed World. Now, the reason that I say you want to keep mostly to Flower Cardian monsters in your extra deck is because, like I said, a lot of the Flower Cardians that don't tribute lock you into Flower Cardians for the rest of the turn when you special summon them. But the reason I have so many cards that aren't Flower Cardians is because a lot of those monsters don't lock you like that. So, if you have monsters already on the field from your previous turn, which I've pulled off before, you can do things like pull a Nightmare Phoenix out of nowhere when your opponent isn't expecting it. It's just, that's a lot less common of a thing to happen, so I like to keep it limited. Now, if we're going to talk side deck, there's not really a side deck to this. It's really just you decide how many copies of each monster you want to run. Spells, I would say keep them probably to about this consistency. There are definitely certain spells you want to run into more often. I would say Super Koi Koi is a great one, but Reincarnation is probably your best card to run into anytime, just because it's great in your hand or being sent to the graveyard. So that's why I like to run 3 copies of it, but you can easily decrease that. It doesn't really matter, it's up to you, but I would recommend 3 copies of it. Super Koi Koi, I could say run at 2 or 3 copies, but it's not as useful as Reincarnation, and you really want to stack your chances of getting monsters and Reincarnation. So I recommend not running too many. For the extra deck on side deck stuff, look into Link Monsters. Link Monsters, especially on a turn where you're not locked, can seriously come in handy to throw your opponent off guard and just do whatever you could ever need that you are not already able to do. And that's very important. But never be afraid to look into synchros as well. I think they're just more limited on how well you can use them. It's all up to you. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed. If you're interested or know anyone that's interested in playing Flower Cardians, feel free to share this around. Feel free to check out my social media, my Twitch, my Discord, my Blue Sky for updates or to chat with me. Anyways, I will see you all later. Bye-bye. But that's the best part, is that it's never good, so nobody ever expects it. I cannot express to you how many times I've caught people off guard with this deck. It's kind of insane. And that's the best part. Do you know how many times I've used this to get past Ash Blossom? It's beautiful. Three copies of Flower Cardian Cherry Blossom with Curtain. 3 copies of Cherry... Damn it. 3 copies of Cherry... 2 copies of Flower Cardian Willow with Calligraphy. Calligrapher. Oh. 2 copies of Flower Cardian Moonflower Viewing. 3 copy... Damn it.